It is your power station, Energy 100 FM, with your hostess, Elsie Timiani, and it is that time of the week where we are, of course, talking EconoChat. Let's talk business with Mr. Daniel Steinman. A warm welcome to all our listeners, and a special warm welcome to Mr. Daniel Steinman.
Thank you, Elsie.
The weather is looking okay. It's not as hectic as we have experienced in the past week.
You wait until Sunday.
Oh.
Then we're back into the middle of winter.
Okay. I did not see that coming. But okay, at least I can prepare myself now mentally. But also speaking of preparing ourselves mentally, you have come today and I see something is not okay. And we're talking about the GDP growth. It does affect us every day. We have had this discussion about GDP, what it is all about, the significant role it plays in our daily lives. But of course, what is a low base effect? We'll start there, Mr. Daniel Steinman.
Okay, Elsie, I thought it sort of appropriate that we are in the first month of the second half of the calendar year. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to repeat that lecture on calendar years and fiscal years and financial years. Let's just say we're in the first month of the second half of the year as the way that we see that year on our calendars. And everybody understands. Huh? Yeah. So usually at this time of the year, you take into consideration what your analysis late last year and early this year sort of showed you, indicated the path that you anticipated the economy would be following. So let's make it a little bit more formal. We're talking about the trajectory.
Yeah.
Now, that's a big word, but it is just the. If you look at the pendulum, do you know what a pendulum is? If you've got a ball on a string and you swing it, zing, 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 that path that the ball follows is called the trajectory, and we apply that same concept in economics. And we have a fair idea at the beginning of the year of what it is that we expect, but not necessarily of what it is that will actually transpire.
Yeah.
So this is fairly normal in any budget, any company manager, any financial manager, financial director will tell you that you have to have a budget, because the budget is it draws the bottom lines and the top lines of the expenditure framework. So the same thing applies to the broader economy. You have to have a budget. Obviously, we've got the government budget or the national budget, but it's not gospel. People must understand, people are often, especially the ordinary guy in the street who is very often adversely affected by what happens in the economy. With these people, you find a type of frustration, because they said, no, but in February this is what the Minister of Finance told us.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm advocating, or I'm trying to teach people to have a realistic expectation of what a budget is. So now we get to just past the half year mark, and we have to make an assessment. We have to basically reassess our positions that we held earlier in the year. And this all comes to when you're talking about the economy, and especially in the Namibian context where the government's role is so big in the economy, you're talking about growth. And when you're talking about the national economy, you're talking about gross domestic product that you and I have often discussed.
Yeah.
But just to recap, GDP for a country is like turnover for a company. So if you would look at Namibia as one very big, large company, then you would say what it generates in a year. In other words, the turnover of the country in a year equals gross domestic product. What we produce onshore or in the Namibian territory. So this is to make a distinction. Okay, you have to stop me now, Elzeby, if I get too technical.
No, you on a roll.
There's a very specific, there are a few formulas to calculate GDP. And you don't always get the same answer, but it's not as if the various answers are off the charts. They're sort of always in a ballpark figure. And I don't think our typical average listener would want to crack his or her head over the exact way that you calculate GDP. But what is important that regardless of what method you apply, you have to determine the trend. And if you remember, I've often pointed this out, that the trend is far more important than the actual nominal value. Because you can put in whatever values you want. If the trend is negative, the economy is not going anywhere. Like we had in 2016, 17, 18. If the trend is positive, it's rather obsolete what values you put in. The whole environment is a growth environment. So you ask me, what is a low base effect? It is what happened during COVID. When the economy really imploded, when it didn't grow slower. Make this clear distinction. Didn't grow slower. It actually got smaller. It shrunk by almost 9%. Now that is a massive lot if you consider that we're very happy if we get 3% growth. So if you lose 9% in 1 year, it basically means you've lost 3 years. It's a bit oversimplified, but that's what it, in essence, what it means. So a low base effect is when the economy has shrunk so much that all future measurements are done from a very small or a very low level.
I think we got that clarity, Mr. Daniel Steinman. Nothing too technical. I think it was clear. But of course, we're going to continue this talk. Let's just quickly go for a short break, and once we come back, we will touch on more in regards to GDP.